So thank you very much for this opportunity. You have actually set the context of today's discussion so well. The macro level ideas of what is this three warfare concepts and all that you have expounded very excellently in the slides that you put out. I really appreciate it because the three warfares that we talk about are all interconnected. So
Correct.
and they are so powerful that the gray zone warfare situation of where there is no war or there is no peace, but the warfare continues in these in using these methods, to try and gain influence and gain superiority or ascendancy over the minds of the people whom they are targeting. So that's the clear idea behind this. In fact, I'm connected with all the three areas in some way. I'm an advocate also.
Yeah, yeah, I
I am
agree.
from the media also. I also have a think tank background. So all the three warfare ideas, I'm aware of it, and I know what's happening in this particular field. In that context, I just want to mention one thing. You rightly mentioned about George Fernandez in around the year 2000. He mentioned that China is enemy number one, and we need to refocus our strategies, de-hyphenate from Pakistan and focus on China much more. In fact, the border infrastructure development in India started probably at that moment when George
Yeah.
Fernandez was the defense minister and mentioned about it, and the strategy changed. Till the
Yes.
time the Indian government had this feeling or this concept that if you develop infrastructure, that infrastructure will be used by China
Yes.
when it is attacking us, and come right up to the Guwahati in northeast, or
Yes.
right up to Srinagar in Ladakh region and all that. So because of which no infrastructure growth happened. That changed probably with that statement. And also, I want to mention something very interesting. Not people know about it. It's a historical fact. In fact, China is India's enemy number one. The first person, particularly communist China, is India's enemy number one. This was propounded and, and stated by none other than Bharat Ratna Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar in 1949 50s. Also his thoughts are compiled in a book called as his views on communism and China. Probably it's a very interesting book that we need to read up. We may have a lot of ideological differences with him on many aspects, but on certain other aspects, there are a lot of ideas that he has propounded which are absolutely true and have turned out to be true right in 1962 and later on. So this is one small addition to this concept of how China is the enemy number one of India. So that's very clear. I think probably we need to study what Dr. Ambedkar said about all these aspects also in a much more minute manner. So with that, I'll request you to come to
Yeah,
the
yeah. Don't
slides
worry.
so that
I'll
I
come.
will.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we'll just come. I think you made a
Right,
very
sir.
important point. We have always uh, known this, but we have never articulated. आजकल तो ये articulate हो रहा है, अच्छी बात है. So let's take it forward. Yeah.
And
So
also,
you're
sir,
going to, yeah,
and
please
also
go ahead.
probably because India was a little wary about right at the border you have two rivals, right, nuclear rivals at that right at your borders, and probably when you're focusing on one front, on the western front much more, you should not open up another front in the north. So probably
Yeah.
that was the idea, but that was the thought process. I mean, I'm trying to second guess what was going on in the minds of the planners of India, but
No,
probably
no, no. What you're saying is right. Uh, I'm aware of this. See, at a point of time, we were very hard pressed due to terrorism and proxy war from Pakistan. As also conventional, threat was there. Mid 80s, mid 90s, right? A lot of things. At that time, we had to do peace with China, right? That was the time, 91, 92. They were also reforming. We were also reforming. It was also their need to have peace with us. So there was a mutual, what shall I say, recognition of the fact that you need to have peace. And we got that peace. The only thing where we went wrong is we trusted them. Or politicians trusted them and took it at face value which they exploited. Right. So, well, that's history now. We have to look ahead. So let's get ahead with the what you have to say, and then we
Yeah,
can discuss it more.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah,
we trusted them, but we failed to verify whether
verify,
what we
trust.
said was,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, trust but verify, as Ronald
Yeah,
Reagan very famously said. So that's a very interesting point that you mentioned, sir. So we'll move on to the next slide. I
yeah,
think we have already. So these are basically two reports that we brought out, one in English and one in Hindi. Both are on the same subject. So we brought out this. My organization called as Law and Society Alliance brought out this study report after extensive research that we did on mapping Chinese's footprints and influence operations in India. We added a little more content to the Hindi version and published it, one in 21 and the other one in 2022, sir. So these are the two reports. So next slide. So we'll yeah. So this is a very important thing. I think if it was a live audience, I would have asked them, please guess the person who's there in this slide, the
no,
photograph of
maybe
the person.
you can ask someone who will answer. I don't know,
Yes, sir.
but go
Yes, sir.
ahead.
Yeah. So I'm sure there are live audiences on YouTube and other places where you are live streaming it. I mean, if let them take a guess, but still, I will reveal the person. This is Mr. Sridhar Vembu.
Yeah,
He's a global industrialist, and he's the chairman of the Zoho Corporation, which is a SaaS, software as a service company, and he's one of the topmost billionaires from India who's doing global business. This is a story that was put out by the Forbes magazine, which is a global magazine. Just about a couple of months back, where he has a personal issue. He has filed a divorce case against his wife in US. They were living in US, and he returned to India. It was a personal matter. They had a personal issue, so he has went and filed a divorce proceeding. But the Forbes magazine used it, some personal matter, to tarnish his image and project him as a person who doesn't take care of his
family.
ailing son and his
Okay.
family and all that, trying to hit him hard where it would hurt him very badly. So everybody would argue that Forbes is a magazine which tracks billionaires and stuff like that, but I would like to differ, because this particular job is a hit job that has been done on Sridhar Vembu. Not many people in India might know that Sridhar Vembu is a member of the National Security Advisory Board. He holds a very key position in the national security apparatus of India, and he's a key advisor to the government of India. He has been targeted precisely because of this reason.
That.
There is no other
Yeah, I
reason.
understand that.
Yes. And this is basically an influence operation. So, how it is an influence operation, let me elaborate. Forbes magazine is no more a Western media house. It's a Chinese, completely Chinese owned media house. Forbes was bought away by a Chinese company called as Magnum Opus Acquisition, which is a Hong Kong based company, where the major stakeholder is the Communist Party of China's China Investment Corporation. So this Magnum Opus acquisition bought over the entire Forbes portfolio from the Western company, and now it's completely owned by China. What is China doing to gain influence globally through the media? It's buying out credible media houses so that it can plant and it can do it jobs like this that they've done on Sridhar Vembu to tarnish the image of people who are thinking of national security of the respective countries that China wants to target. You did mention about this in your slides, sir. In fact, China is focusing on individuals, personalities who are scientists, who are
Yeah,
politicians, who are
that's part of the job.
uh,
Part of the job.
yeah,
Yeah.
they are tracking them completely. Not just they're tracking them. They're tracking their weaknesses. They try to induce their allegiance by catering to their weaknesses. Like somebody might have a weakness for women, somebody might have a
Yeah.
weakness for wine. So if you don't fall for it, if you fall for it, then they make maximum use of it. It's entirely a operation of their MSS, Ministry of State Security, where they trying to gain your allegiance and or force you to do what they want to do. Otherwise, if you are not falling for it, then they will target you, try to discredit you. These are the kind of operations that they do, and this is one such operation that they've done
Operation.
on Sridhar Vembu. It's particularly important to know that when you read a news item, we should also know who's writing it and why are they writing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
always
That
important
I
to
completely understand
yeah.
what you're saying.
So and also
Yeah,
we should know the background of each and every individual. We should try and find out the background and the media houses who are writing it. This is particularly a hit job on a National Security Advisory Board member. Also because he's kind of favorable to the present government's
yeah.
views on
That's
national security. So that's the next slide. So I'll try and complete it as quickly
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
possible. I
sure.
have about 30 slides so that we can have some discussion on
Yeah,
this. Okay, so this particular research that we did on 9 sectors. One of the important sectors is the entertainment sector. So, India, we all know you come from the south, sir. I also come from the south. So I am from Tamil Nadu. So, cinema is a big influence on the minds of the
yes,
people. Of course, even in the north, the Mumbai Hindi film industries has a great influence on the minds of the people. Idol worshipping is a fad in India. It continues to be a fad, despite Indians becoming much more educated and stuff like that. But the Chinese have identified that this particular sector is of great influence. So what they have done is since 2019, China has tried to buy influence in the sector, entertainment sector, particularly the Hindi filmdom. In 2019, they invited Shah Rukh Khan and Kabir Khan, two popular film personalities from India, to the China-India film co-production dialogue at the Beijing International Film Festival, and promoted their movies as part of it. This is the inducement,
yeah,
the
yeah. I
enticement
agree
that
with
they
you. No, they've
that they
done
provide.
they've
Yeah.
done similar things with Hollywood also.
Yeah, they've done it at multiple places. Since I'm dealing with India,
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
right.
I agree with
These
you.
operations are quite common throughout the world.
World.
Any democracy that they want to target, whom they feel as a threat, they target those societies through these kind of influence operations. So, as I mentioned, we tracked 9 sectors, out of which entertainment is one sector. Then we also focused on the think tanks and civil society organizations. Then we also looked at the Indian academia, how influence operation happens there. Then the media, where journalists and media houses are influenced. Social media influences, how
Yeah,
social media
influencer.
influences are bought over by the Chinese, the United Front Works Department representatives who are there in the embassy in India, and also the MSS representatives who are posted here. Also, the interdependence in the tech sector, how they are exploiting that particular interdependence. Of course, the government was smart enough to ban
Yeah,
multiple apps
will
that are connected to China. Then we also looked at the Chinese intelligence ops in India. Then the traders. Traders are also a big focus area of influence. So, India wants to reduce its imports from China, but the traders who find a cheaper market, who
go
buy
there.
cheaper market, yeah, they want to go there. So they lobby the government, on in favor of China. So these are the some of the influence operations that they do. And we also looked at the political establishments, how politics is influenced, and the polity in India is also influenced. So, not just this, sir. We'll move on to the next slide, sir. Of course. So after this particular film festival where Shah Rukh Khan was invited, what they did was they started, connecting with several production houses in India, and began co-production of films in India. They invested money in those companies. They created joint ventures and issues like that. So they created a linkage with the Indian film industry to uh, co-produce. What is the idea of putting money and co-producing? They also control the narrative. In
Yeah,
fact, there was a very popular Hindi movie, I think a war movie several years back, Hakikat करके एक movie है.
Hakikat,
So,
yes.
हाँ, Hakikat करके, it's a 1962 war के बारे
Yeah, yeah.
में. It was a movie which projected the Chinese sinister move
Designs.
in the 1960 designs in the 1962 war. You will be surprised, sir. There was a review of that movie, a commentary written on that movie, just about 10 years back
Okay.
in Indian media. Basically, because they are buying these influence in the film industry to change the narrative, or at
Correct.
least to wipe out the narrative, anti-China narrative that exists, and occupy the mind space of the Indians, trying to get a positive outlook towards China and all that. Whereas the the idea behind this is quite sinister. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically
There's no
they're trying to create a fifth column in India, who can come in handy for the Chinese at the time of their choosing. Basically, that's the idea behind it. So, uh, so this particular movie is a very interesting thing, because it's a very popular movie. Also, this
Yeah.
movie was the star of the movie is Ranbir Kapoor, Rishi
Yes.
Kapoor's son. Rockstar is the name of the movie. Uh, when the movie was originally released, the Free Tibet movement was shown in one of the very popular
Songs.
songs in the movie. But the Chinese influenced the film certification board, and if you go to the next slide, you will see that the Tibet has been
Taken
blurred,
off.
taken off from the. Whereas the same song shows the Khalistani movement more prominently. So,
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you.
yeah, so this is the
Yeah.
kind of sir, you talked about the macro issue, sir. I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
into the
You
micro
very
issues so
important.
that people
Very
understand
important.
how
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
influence
How it happens.
is how it happens. So they should know how it happens, and
How it
they should be able
happens.
to read it after our
Look,
session is
it,
over.
they should be able to discern between what is happening and what they're seeing. Let me give you
Correct.
give you my own thing. I'm in IIT. So about 2 years back, I saw in the mail that I've been invited for a event in China for a conference, and
Yeah.
all I had to do was say yes. If the deal was, if I said yes, uh, well, my tickets, my stay, everything was okay. And they also said, if you want to get someone else along, you can come along. I mean, the deal was very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I had gone and come, let's put it this way, they were climbing the wrong tree. That's a different story. But if I had gone and come, I would have been someone else.
Absolutely.
Today, in our media, in our think tanks, in webinars and all, you do find people who have been influenced by these things, and they talk the
No
Chinese
China.
language.
Yeah.
They don't talk
Right.
Tamil like you and I do.
From the
அவனுக்கு
language,
தமிழ்
from the
இல்ல
from their
அவங்களுக்கு தமிழ்
vocab,
தெரியாது.
தமிழ் தெரியாது.
தமிழ் தெரியாது.
Correct.
ஸோ அவங்க ஏதாவது பேசிக்கிட்டே இருப்பாங்க. एनीवे तो बात ये है कि ये सबको पता होना चाहिए. हम आप पूरा देश किस खतरे के मोड़ में खड़े हैं हम, राइट? खतरा है
Yes, absolutely.
और आपके दरवाजे पे है. अगर आप पहचानोगे नहीं तो ये चाइना वाले आके आपको टोपी लगाएगा. इसमें दो राय नहीं होना चाहिए. Yeah, please
Exactly.
continue.
That's right, sir. So, so this kind of influence on the Central Board of Film Certification,
Yeah,
they have been
happened.
able to exert because they are putting in money. Money is the one which speaks. So, so they have also tried to, promote movies and film stars by projecting an exaggerated figure of sales of the movie tickets that have happened, and screening them in China and trying to. I mean, if the movie is not doing well, they will, promote it extensively in China, make money for the production house and give it to them, and gain influence in that particular production house. So they've also tried to tie up between the film industry bodies, film industry associations in India, and film industry, the Communist Party of China under the UFW department. They run these organizations like it's a CCP unit called a China Film Association and China Federation of Literary and Art Circle and all that. So they try to connect with the organizations in India and try to gain influence in the film industry. So next slide. Okay, so I will move on to the think tanks and the civil society. So this is an event that was hosted by the Chinese embassy within Chinese embassy. They created this association of youth, Indian youth, China India Youth Dialogue 2020, and hosted it within their campus. And they funded it completely, sir. And this was basically an effort to gain influence among the think tanks and civil society organizations in India. So essentially, what they do is, I mean, you rightly pointed out, researchers from think tanks, they provide them access to China. They take them on study tours to China. They again try to figure out what is your weakness. They're ready to supply anything, money,
Yeah.
wine, whatever. Then they also do conducted tours of China of what they want you to see, and you come back and write research reports of paying glowing tributes to the Chinese of as though they have the greatest society
In the
across the
world.
world, and yeah, they have something to offer to India. So, in fact, you mentioned about these historical claims that they make over Indian territory and other territories. So they claim that Arunachal Pradesh, South Tibet is
Yeah.
theirs because some Chinese king had ruled over that part of the country. So they forget that India had ruled their minds for a very long time.
Long time.
Bodhisattva and others had gone to China, and they were ruling China.
Much before that.
People's heart. I would say people's heart. Much before that. So can India start claiming them? In fact, the naming of say various places in Arunachal Pradesh into Mandarin. So that's an absurd claim that they make.
Hey,
So
let me highlight, since you've spoken of Arunachal Pradesh, I must tell everyone, देखिए हम ये जो चाइना के बारे में ना, मैंने 77 में 77 में जब मैंने फौज ज्वाइन किया तब से मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ चाइना के बारे में. 77 से लेकर 2003 तक, ठीक है, वो तकरीबन 26 साल मैंने कभी नहीं सुना साउथ तिब्बत का नाम. 2003 में जब हमने ये मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग साइन किया था चाइना के साथ, उसके बाद इन्होंने शुरू किया. 2003 तक हमने तिब्बत को भी रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं किया. तब तक ये चुप रहे, कोई साउथ तिब्बत नहीं था, क्योंकि तब तक ये चाह रहे थे कि तिब्बत को रिकॉग्नाइज किया जाए. जिस दिन हमने तिब्बत को रिकॉग्नाइज किया, ये साउथ तिब्बत मांगने लगे. तो ये बात ये है, इनका एक उंगली दो आपका गला पकड़ेंगे कल. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, they bide their time to
bide their time
to make their moves.
Yes.
They want the other side to make their mistakes.
Mistakes.
So 2003 was a disaster that way. I mean,
yeah, that's okay. That's history, but
that is part of history. It's fine. We have to live with it. We have to change the situation at the right time. So I don't call it as Sino-Indian border. I call it as Indo-Tibetan border. So,
yeah, okay. That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in fact, these kind of associations and organizations, civil society organizations, they create. This is an organization that they created. Till the Ladakh conflict happened in 2020, this particular Asian Century, which calls itself as Asian Century Foundation now, had a very different pro-China name. And it functioned from India, and they share addresses with all the Chinese CCP's establishments. They created this, and the person who was heading this particular had great access to the Chinese embassy here, and he was funded and have done everything. So since they had a very pro-China name, there was a backlash after the Ladakh conflict, and they changed the name to Asian Century Foundation. So this organization was floated by the Chinese embassy in India to as a think tank, as a civil society organization, to organize events and do pro-China work in India. And but suddenly this association has disappeared. Its website has disappeared. The organization has disappeared after we published this report and we exposed this organization.
नहीं, but आपने expose तो कर दिया, आपने कर दिया, but हो सकता है कोई और शुरू हो गया होगा कहीं और. ये छोड़ेंगे
Absolutely,
नहीं
it
हमें.
is possible. It is possible
हाँ.
that they changed the name and
Change
started
the name.
another organization.
Yeah, we can't reach this stage.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah. So this is okay.
yeah,
This is about think tanks. Sir. Three paragraphs that I wanted to highlight, sir.
yeah.
Top
Please
think
go ahead.
tanks, top think tanks in the country, particularly which have China-focused studies. Some institute which has a China studies behind it. Some some observers of big events in the country. So these are, I mean, I've given enough guesswork for people to understand which organization I'm talking about. I've almost mentioned their names. So these think tanks get funding from the Chinese and do pro-China research work. So one particular organization has got crores and crores of rupees from the Chinese embassy to do pro-China work. Where is the need for them to take these kind of Chinese funding? I really don't understand why they should be doing it. There are enough people to fund think tanks in India, and particularly one particular think tank in Delhi, based in Delhi, which kind of has a great influence in Raisina and all. They are funded by a industrial house. So why do they need to take money from China? I don't understand. And they do typical China-related research dictated by the Chinese.
Chinese.
And what is the kind of influence operation that they're wanting to do? What are they trying to achieve by this? So it's a question,
No,
question
it's not a
mark, and
question.
of course,
Look, I'm very clear. It's not a question at all. Because this think tank, जो क्या करेगा ये think tank? ये think tank जो चाइना के विरुद्ध इश्यूज हैं उसके विरुद्ध लिखेंगे. जैसे टिबेट, ये लिखेंगे कि टिबेट चाइना का हिस्सा था, चाहे टिबेट कभी अलग नहीं होना चाहिए, ये दलाई लामा बेवकूफ आदमी है, वो टेररिस्ट है, ऐसे लिखेंगे, ये ऐसे रिसर्च
कैसे
करेंगे
लिखेंगे?
और दे विल मैन्युफैक्चर डेटा. क्योंकि आजकल के जो मोह माया की जिंदगी है, कुछ भी कर लो, कुछ भी बोल लो और उसके एक कहीं उसका रेफरेंस दे दो, चल जाता है. किसके पास टाइम है रेफरेंस को देखने के लिए? तो ऐसे
इनफैक्ट आप सही
जाल.
बता रहे हैं. आप सही बता रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट जब इंडिया डिसाइड किया था आरसीईपी में हम ज्वाइन नहीं करेंगे, यही ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस
यही
इंडिया ने बहुत गलत
ऑर्गेनाइजेशन
किया.
गलत.
इंडिया ने बहुत गलत किया. इंडिया का इससे बड़ा नुकसान हुआ. ऐसे चीजें लिखते
ऐसे
हैं.
लिखेंगे.
बट जो डिसीजन लिया गया था उस समय, उसमें हम सोच रहे हैं कि प्रैक्टिशनर्स को कुछ पता नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं है.
नहीं
प्रैक्टिशनर्स
नहीं
को
नहीं,
काफी
ऐसी
कुछ
बात
पता
नहीं
है.
है. देखिए, मैं भी गवर्नमेंट
ये
में रह चुका हूँ. मैं भी गवर्नमेंट में रह चुका हूँ. मैं गवर्नमेंट को क्रिटिसाइज भी करता हूँ, सब कुछ करता हूँ. पर मैं गवर्नमेंट के साथ, मैंने अपने व्हेन आई रिटायर्ड आई हैड द अशोका पिलर ऑन माय शोल्डर. तो आई नो दैट गवर्नमेंट में कोई बेवकूफ नहीं है.
बेवकूफ
गवर्नमेंट में
नहीं
जो
है.
काम
वो
करते
सोच
हैं वो
समझ के
सदी हुई
डिसीजन
सोच
लेते
समझ के
हैं.
काम करते हैं. हाँ, हो सकता है उनका दृष्टिकोण और मेरा दृष्टिकोण अलग हो, आपका और उनका दृष्टिकोण अलग हो. आप सोच सकते हैं कि ठीक है, ये आदमी ये काम ठीक नहीं कर रहा, वो काम ठीक कर सकता है, पर उसका जो निष्ठा है देश के प्रति, उसके ऊपर कोई आंच नहीं आ सकता, कोई सोच भी नहीं है.
वो तो
राइट, आई गो विद यू ऑन
पांच
दैट 100%.
पांच उंगली सेम नहीं होते हैं.
सेम नहीं होते, अलग
डिफरेंस
अलग
ऑफ
होते हैं.
ओपिनियन तो हो सकते हैं. हमारा
हो सकता
राय
है.
अलग हो सकता है. बट एक बार डिसीजन हो गया है, निर्णय
तो
हो गया है, तो देश के हित में हम उसके साथ खड़ा भी रहना है. तो
देखिए,
ये
5
बहुत
उंगली
जरूरी है.
अलग हो सकते हैं, पर दिशा एक ही होगा.
Correct,
ओके,
exactly.
या.
So also these think tanks, what they do is they do tie-ups between a Chinese think tank and an Indian think tank, and they
Had lot of
offer,
yeah.
these kind of activities. They continue to do, and a lot of Indian organizations, think tanks, have taken funding to do pro-China work in India. So
Yeah.
this is the scenario as far as the Chinese think tanks are concerned. This is again another Chinese embassy event, where this particular, I don't want to point out the person, but there is
It's
a
okay.
youth who is standing right in front, right beside the Chinese official towards his left. So that guy has great access to the Chinese embassy. His youth organization is funded completely by China. They host youth events uh, funded by the Chinese embassy, and Chinese speakers go there and brainwash
Yeah.
the youth
Other people.
into taking pro-China stand and issues like that. So this is a India China Chronicle is a publication brought out by a think tank, and if you read the articles of this particular thing, sir, everything is written by mostly
Completely.
by completely by some by Chinese writers, Chinese researchers, and they peddle a pro-China argument on everything
Yeah.
against India's national interests. So this is again, I'm moving on to the academia. So in
Yeah.
academia, if you see, the China adopts the strategy of starting Confucius institutes, where they claim that they are going to be teaching Mandarin and issues like that. But basically, these Confucius institutes are essentially a place where they indoctrinate Indian youth to communism and pro-China stand and issues like that. These are some of the study circles that have been conducted
Started.
started and being conducted in Indian educational institutions, including IITs and IIMs, big
Yeah, but
universities, private universities.
I think some of these have been closed. Some had to
So some
start,
of
some
them
have
have
been.
been closed. Yeah, so some of them
Yeah.
have been closed. Some of them have started. New institutions have been
Yeah, I
approached
understand what
to
you're saying.
start and all that. So there are three privately funded universities in the NCR region, which are completely in the captured by the Chinese. They're particularly they run these China Study Center. If you can't
Yeah.
start a Confucius Institute, then they rename it
That
as a China Study Circle or a China Study Center, and they continue to do their work. And most of these institutions that they've created are headed by the Chinese nationals. So their professors, their professors
is
come and teach about China to the Indian students.
like
So
what this you have shown.
this is one of the universities where the previous the Chinese ambassador
Hmm.
was a frequent visitor. His wife was also a very frequent visitor to this university, which is
Hmm.
somewhere based in Sonipat.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is next slide, sir. Okay, so this is again another Confucius Institute in the University of Mumbai. I just
Mumbai.
want to mention one thing here, since you come from IIT Chennai, sir. IIT Chennai is also where the Chinese have intruded.
Yeah, but
You
now we
mentioned,
know.
yeah, now you
Now
know.
we know.
So
Now we know.
now you know. So IIM Shillong again is
Hmm.
another big institution that has been intruded by the Chinese. So we move on to the media space. So this is on the left extreme is one journalist named Rajiv Sharma. He was arrested for being a
Yeah, I remember
informer.
that.
You remember that his case is still going on. Probably he's currently on bail, but otherwise his case is currently going on in the Delhi court in Tisazari. So he was, in fact, what you mentioned about Dalai Lama एक terrorist है,
Yeah.
उसको
He
India
must have written.
he wrote articles of that sort saying that वो terrorist है उसको China को दे देना चाहिए, let
Uh,
China deal with him in whatever way they want, ऐसे करके
yeah,
बहुत articles इसने लिखा है, and he was the correspondent for Global Times in Delhi.
in Delhi. Okay.
Interestingly, I have seen him, getting huge access in both Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of External Affairs when he was still a journalist, and I have seen him with very confidential papers in his hand, and I used to wonder how is he getting access to these kind of papers even then. So
Yeah,
then later,
that's how much they have penetrated at some point of
they
time. But I
exactly
don't think today it's so much.
yeah, today it is not. See, at the 2020 Ladakh conflict was an eye opener.
Yeah, to all of us,
For
ये
all
भी
of
हो
us,
सकता
for
है.
everybody. So we are much more careful now. The Indian, sir, it is quite possible that they were all gullible also. Some of the people
Yeah,
who
yeah,
were
I agree with you.
got influenced, they were gullible also. I mean, benefit of doubt to dena hi padega इनको.
Yeah, no, I
So
have no
these,
doubt on.
yeah, so these are some of the Chinese apps that were very popular in India. They have all been banned. So we'll move on, sir. Next.
Yeah,
Okay, sir. This is a very important thing, sir. This is how the Chinese purchase influence in big media houses. I talked about purchase takeover of media houses globally, credible media houses. This is using their money power to purchase influence. So
yeah.
this is a full-page advertisement that
Hindustan
the
Times.
Chinese embassy Yeah, they regularly keep, every month there is something that comes out. This is in the Hindustan Times. So let's move on to the next slide also, so that I will explain it. This is again another advertisement in the Indian Express. And what is the, sir, these are multi edition advertisements. So let's be in that slide, the previous slide, sir.
Okay.
The previous slide. These are multi, crore business for the media houses, because these advertisements are published in, multiple editions. Say, for example, Indian Express has about 14 editions nationally. In
Yeah, it'll
14
come
editions,
everywhere.
yeah, so 5 crore, 6 crore, maybe even much more than that, 10 crore costing for these advertisements. So what is the quid pro quo for these advertisements? This was published in 2022, October 1, on the PRC's founding day, national day. Next slide, sir. What is the quid pro quo for this, the money that was spent? Here, there is a article 10 days later on 11th of October, published by the Indian Express, pumping up the Chinese, how they bet extreme poverty, and India has lessons. गरीबी हटाओ हमारा कम नहीं है. So this is a pumped up, plugged story in favor of China just 10 days later. This is the quid pro quo. So this is the kind of influence operation that they have on media houses. So let's move on. Next slide. Okay, so this is an article that was published by the Hindu. I call it as the Global Times in Chennai, from Chennai. So the Global Times from Chennai, always and frequently writes pro-China articles. This is a article which, if you read it, you will wonder whether this was written by some Chinese or was it by an Indian. So yeah.
Okay.
So right, sir. If you read the language, you know that this comes from somebody. From
yeah,
China.
I can understand. Yeah, I understand. I read Hindu and I see a lot of such articles.
Yes, sir. So now I'm moving on to the social media. So this is the 50 cent army of the Chinese UFWD. The United Front Works Department, where they monitor. They have banned Twitter and other social media, global Western social media. But they are there on the social media to counter any anti-China narrative that happens. So anything, people pointing out a dead diplomacy of theirs or anything of this, there is a bunch of people who report them to Twitter so that it is blocked. Your Twitter account is blocked. So Lawn Society Alliance and my Twitter handles, I keep frequently tweeting the factual things about China, and they have attacked me by reporting my handles so that it gets blocked by Twitter. So this kind of activity is done by this 50 cent army. They put out narratives, they counter narratives, they even target and attack websites which does that. So this is something that they do. And here are two influences, military influences on social media. And during the Ladakh conflict, they wrote tweets. They posted tweets and social media posts which were tarnishing the Indian army and projecting the Chinese.
Yeah, I know that.
Will run over
and they are quite famous also.
Yeah, they are quite famous for doing that. And sir, surprisingly, these people, they get quite of good access. So visa facilitation is a very important influence operation. So if you want a Chinese visa, in fact, our good friend Nitin Gokhale, when he had put out one news item in his on his platform of how Xi Jinping is comparable to Hitler, he got a call from the Chinese embassy saying that we will not facilitate visa anymore.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
So that is also used as a weapon. So these things are also used as a weapon. So these two people, they get a huge access to the Chinese embassy and to China. There are other journalists also. In fact, during Ladakh conflict, how it all started, sir. I started researching this thing is during the Ladakh conflict breakout. There were articles written by journalists, by think tankers, by former diplomats, some military officers, which were all pro-China, saying that the Chinese army will run over the Indian army in 5 days.
Yeah. Look, I still remember what you're saying. there was a fear psychosis created by such articles.
Yeah. So, and that they were blaming India for initiating a
Whatever,
Ladakh
yeah.
conflict. And your infrastructure development is the reason. Your Article 370 is the reason. I mean, this one particular one is about Article 370. So, these kind of fear psychosis, these kind of influencing the minds of the Indians, and of course, they talk the language of the Chinese.
Yeah.
The vocabularies of the Chinese. So it's very easily identifiable. In fact, there was one former military officer who writes for a very big business publication in India. His reports on the Ladakh conflict sound. I mean, I've been a journalist for a long time. We journalists
Yeah,
were
they come as
experienced.
what they're straight from PLA.
The briefing is straight from PLA. So
Yeah, I
that
know
is
that.
very clear.
I know who you're talking
And,
of. Yeah.
and journalists can easily identify
Why
the
journalists
by
here?
the by
Anyone
the
can identify. Even I can
anyone
identify.
who, yeah, that is what I'm saying. Anybody who's in this business of watching China and watching the media reports and all, they will be easily able to guess where the
Oh,
briefing has come
the
from.
guy whom you're
So,
talking of has blocked my account, incidentally.
yeah. So
So that's okay. That's
he,
part of
he
life.
acts when he meets me when he meets as though he's very pally to me. But I know he's very angry with me for exposing him.
Okay.
So even I mean the persons the Twitter handles that I put out, they have blocked me on Twitter. So
Yeah, that's
because
okay.
I am
That's part
exposing
of
them.
life.
So, yeah. So these are multiple apps, Chinese apps that were working in India, and of course the government has.
Banned them.
This is about the tech sector. Banned them. Most of them has been banned. So basically, a lot of fintech, edutech, and loan apps are all majorly by Chinese. Of course, today I was reading in a newspaper that the Enforcement Directorate has initiated some investigations against Xiaomi mobile phone companies, Chinese, and also edutech and fintech companies in India who were siphoning off Indian money and illegally, basically, without it was not done through legal channels. So they transferred money to China and all that. So it's basically draining out of the Indian economy. That is one of the big tech operations that they do. They also invest in good tech companies that are working. Okay, so we'll move on to the political side, sir. This is the Communist Party of Marxist office in Delhi. The Chinese embassy frequently sends them officials go there with huge gifts of course, the main influence operation is they target people with leftist tendencies, people with communist ideological backgrounds. They also target to gain influence and to make them pro-China. So use these people for pro-China activities. So this is the political spectrum where they have done these operations. Of course, Pinarayi Vijayan is the Communist Chief Minister of Kerala. If you go to his Twitter handle and watch it, every week he will post one pro-China tweet praising Xi Jinping as the king of the world, as the emperor of the world, and issues like that. So they find these leftist Marxists as their bedfellows. So they easily think that these people can
actually, we have to also understand, our government at some point of time had the leftists and the Marxists in the center. The Manmohan Singh's first
government, yeah. So they had a huge influence on the.
They had a huge influence, and we lost. I mean, the nation lost because of that, and we came under the Chinese influence at that point of time in a long way, right? So I suppose that's part of being a democracy. We paid the price of being
paid the price for being a democracy. Yes, there are issues. I mean, this is the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. This is one of their annual reports, which, in fact, for this research, we went through thousands and thousands of documents. So I've listed about 250 of them in my report. So this is how the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation has taken money from
China,
which it's been reported also in the public.
It's been reported.
So they have named a lot of journalists, politicians, some think tankers who went along with them to China, visited China. So this is something, sir. I have one last point to make, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
In fact, the ruling party of the day, till the 2020 Ladakh conflict happened, and of course, this diplomacy that the Chennai diplomacy and
Yeah,
Ahmedabad diplomacy and all that the government was doing, because of which the ruling party of the day was also falling prey to the
yeah, I
influence
understand what
operations
you're saying.
by the Chinese. The 2020 Ladakh conflict became an eye opener, after
Yeah,
which this party woke up and they
yeah,
disconnected themselves from the Communist Party of China. In fact, they started inviting delegates to each other's party congress and national conference meetings and all that. So, and there were also delegations going around from this party to theirs, and their party representing here and all that. So basically, these kind of influence operations is usually, it comes under uh, the Chinese, uh, influence operations concepts which they have, which will be my last point, sir. There, of course, the three warfare that you mentioned, but interestingly, sir, one of the concepts, the three warfare concept, is called as active measures. Under the
yes.
active measures, what the Chinese do is they recruit useful idiots in the target nations. And all these people whom I have listed today are all useful idiots for the Chinese.
Okay. Yeah, you had your thing. I think you made your point. Okay. Right. Good. Okay. Yeah, I think you made your point.